In 1959, a coroner in Vancouver stared down at the lifeless body of Hollywood's most dashing leading man. The doctor's hands trembled as he wrote his report. The corpse before him appeared to belong to an 85-year-old man, ravaged by decades of abuse. Yet the death certificate read, Errol Flynn, age 50. What secrets had Hollywood's golden age been hiding behind its glittering facade? What darkness lurked beneath the smiles that charmed millions? The truth would remain buried for decades until one legendary actor decided to break the silence forever. If you're ready to discover the shocking reality behind Hollywood's most beloved stars, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell, because what you're about to learn will change how you see these icons forever. Charlie Chaplin, the little tramp's dark obsession. Behind the bowler hat and cane that made the world laugh lived a man consumed by disturbing desires that would ultimately destroy him. Charlie Chaplin, the comedic genius who created cinema's most beloved character, harbored a secret obsession that turned his private life into a series of scandals. Mildred Harris was 16 when she married Chaplin in 1918. The rushed wedding came after rumors of pregnancy spread through Los Angeles, and whispers claimed her parents received money to keep quiet about the circumstances. But Harris was only the beginning. Leda Gray caught Chaplin's attention when she was 12, playing a little angel in The Kid. By 17, she found herself trapped in what she later described as legalized emotional slavery. Chaplin controlled every aspect of her existence, from her wake-up time to the exact way she smiled for guests. The pattern continued with disturbing consistency. Paulette Goddard endured marriage to a man who treated her as a supporting character in his personal drama. Most shocking was Una O'Neill, daughter of playwright Eugene O'Neill, who became Chaplin's wife at 17 when he was 54. Her father disowned her completely. Court testimonies revealed Chaplin's bizarre bedroom rituals, forcing partners to perform scripted scenarios repeatedly. The press dubbed him the perverted clown, and America eventually rejected the man who had once brought them such joy. Chaplin's exile to Switzerland marked the end of a career built on laughter but sustained by exploitation. The little tramp's legacy became forever tainted by the truth of his predatory nature. John Wayne, America's Hero's Racist Reality. The man who embodied American heroism on screen harbored beliefs so extreme they shocked a nation already grappling with civil rights. John Wayne's 1971 Playboy interview shattered his carefully constructed image when he declared that white people were born to lead. Wayne's hatred extended beyond race. At press conferences, he dismissed groundbreaking films like Midnight Cowboy as sick and unworthy of cinema history. His fear of social progress transformed into open hostility that alienated younger Hollywood. The most explosive moment came at the 1973 Oscars when Sachin Littlefeather refused Marlon Brando's award to protest Hollywood's treatment of Native Americans. Backstage, Wayne's rage erupted. According to witnesses, 6 security guards had to restrain him as he attempted to storm the stage, growling threats about dragging Littlefeather off with his bare hands. The incident marked Wayne's transformation from beloved icon to symbol of division. Young filmmakers boycotted his projects, and protesters in San Francisco carried banners reading, "John Wayne doesn't represent us." The cowboy hero who had once united America in admiration for rugged individualism now stood as a reminder of the country's darkest prejudices. Wayne's final years were marked by this contradiction, a man celebrated for playing American heroes while embodying the very hatred those heroes were supposed to overcome. His legacy remains forever complicated by the moment he revealed his true beliefs to a horrified nation. Bette Davis, the queen who ruled through fear. The woman with the most expressive eyes in Hollywood used them not just for acting, but for striking terror into everyone around her. Bette Davis transformed film sets into battlefields where her volcanic temper could erupt without warning, leaving careers and bodies in its wake. During the production of Mr. Skeffington in 1944, Davis's cruelty reached shocking heights. When a crew member accidentally tore her costume, she yanked his hair and struck him with a prop cane so violently he required 2 weeks of hospitalization. The studio buried the incident with $5,000 and a non-disclosure agreement. Her violence wasn't random, it was calculated. George Hamilton, a lighting technician, needed 4 stitches after Davis hurled a glass ashtray at his face for creating unflattering shadows. Studio lawyers delivered cash payments, with notes dismissing these assaults as occupational accidents. Co-stars suffered equally. Miriam Hopkins recalled leaving scenes with Davis covered in real bruises, deliberately inflicted during what appeared to be acting. Davis would claw and squeeze during intimate scenes, then turn away as if it were merely professional technique. Her legendary feud with Joan Crawford reached its pinnacle during Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, when Davis allegedly kicked Crawford in the knee, leaving her co-star on crutches for weeks. The woman who won 2 Oscars and commanded respect as Hollywood royalty spent her final years alone in a Paris apartment, hidden behind dark glasses that concealed the eyes that had once terrorized an industry. Her artistic legacy remains inseparable from the fear she instilled in everyone who dared work alongside her. Joan Crawford, the perfect mother's horrific reality. America saw the perfectly coiffed woman posing with her beautiful adopted children, but behind the mansion doors of Brentwood lay a house of horrors that would traumatize a generation. Joan Crawford's public image as Hollywood's ideal mother masked a domestic tyrant whose cruelty knew no bounds. Christina Crawford's 1978 memoir, Mommy Dearest, exposed the nightmare: beatings with metal hangers for the smallest infractions. Forced scrubbing sessions at 3 a.m. where children knelt on freezing tiles, cleaning imaginary stains with toothbrushes until their knees bled. Crawford's obsession with cleanliness became pathological torture. When alcohol fueled her rages, the violence escalated. Crawford would rip down curtains, screaming that light was dirtying the room, then strike whoever happened to be nearby. Former staff confirmed hearing constant crying that became as familiar as background music in the Crawford home. Her professional cruelty matched her domestic tyranny. During Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, she hid iron weights in her costume when Bette Davis had to drag her across the floor, inflicting weeks of back pain on her rival. At the 1963 Oscars, she orchestrated a backstabbing maneuver, accepting Anne Bancroft's award while Davis watched in fury. Crawford weaponized everything, romance, motherhood, even award ceremonies, to maintain her position in Hollywood's hierarchy. She died alone in 1977, estranged from the children she had psychologically destroyed and abandoned by the industry that once celebrated her perfection. The woman the world saw as elegance incarnate was revealed as Hollywood's cruelest mother, leaving scars that lasted lifetimes. Errol Flynn, the swashbuckling predator. The man who made hearts race as Robin Hood lived a life so depraved that his own body became evidence of his excess. Errol Flynn's dashing exterior concealed appetites that would ultimately consume him from within, leaving behind a trail of destroyed lives and broken dreams. In 1942, Flynn faced charges involving 2 teenage girls, Betty Hansen, 17, and Peggy Satterley, just 15. The courtroom testimony painted a horrific picture of manipulation and assault. Peggy described being lured onto Flynn's yacht and plied with alcohol until resistance became impossible. Betty recounted similar horrors at the Hollywood Roosevelt Hotel. Flynn's expensive defense team secured an acquittal, but the damage to his reputation proved irreversible. Warner Brothers allegedly spent hundreds of thousands to silence witnesses and influence the jury, turning justice into a commodity. The acquittal only emboldened Flynn. His Mulholland Drive mansion became a playground of depravity where underage girls appeared regularly under the pretense of screen tests. Musicians were forced to play for 12 hours straight, under threat of being thrown into the pool. The parties became legendary for their excess and their victims. Flynn's philosophy was simple: never refuse any pleasure. He boasted of experimenting with drug-laced alcohol and intimate games that disturbed even his closest associates. The press nicknamed him the gentleman without limits. The price came due early and brutally. When Dr. Thomas Noguchi examined Flynn's corpse in 1959, he found the ravaged body of what appeared to be an 85-year-old man, though Flynn was only 50. The dashing face that had launched 1,000 fantasies had hidden a soul that destroyed itself through unbridled hedonism. Bing Crosby, the crooner's cold cruelty. The voice that brought warmth to millions of American homes during the holidays concealed a heart of ice that turned family life into a military nightmare. Bing Crosby's public image as the perfect father shattered when his children finally found the courage to speak their truth. A leather whip hung permanently in the Crosby living room, its presence a constant threat that terrorized the children into submission. Meals required perfect posture. Shoes had to be arranged in exact rows, and any deviation resulted in immediate punishment that often crossed into torture. The most chilling abuse involved ice-cold water. Children had their heads shoved into basins of freezing water until their lips turned blue, then yanked back up as if it were merely character-building exercise. A former maid discovered young Philip trembling and pale-lipped after one such lesson, while Crosby walked away with casual indifference. In recording studios, Crosby's perfectionism became legendary for its ruthlessness. A single error could send him storming out, leaving entire crews to waste a day's work. His demands for retake after retake created an atmosphere of suffocating tension that followed him throughout his career. Gary Crosby's 1983 memoir, Going My Own Way, finally exposed the horror. He described children lying to each other with wide eyes but never daring to cry, winter mornings beginning with ice water poured over their heads, and the suffocating silence when their father entered any room. 2 of Crosby's sons fell into deep depression, with one taking his own life. The man whose voice symbolized Christmas joy had created a family legacy of trauma and tragedy that contradicted everything he represented to the world. Gene Kelly, the dancing dictator's ruthless perfectionism. The smile that charmed audiences in Singin' in the Rain masked a tyrant whose obsession with perfection transformed movie sets into torture chambers. Gene Kelly's pursuit of artistic excellence came at a human cost that left co-stars scarred and careers destroyed. 19-year-old Debbie Reynolds arrived at MGM with starry-eyed dreams that Kelly systematically crushed. He pushed her through rehearsals so brutal that her feet swelled, her toes bled, and tissues soaked in tears littered the rehearsal floor. Many nights she collapsed under the piano, too exhausted to stand while crews worked around her motionless form. Kelly's cruelty extended beyond physical abuse. He forced Esther Williams to stoop during scenes to ensure he always appeared taller and more commanding. His ego demanded complete control over every aspect of production, turning collaborators into victims of his megalomaniacal vision. The perfectionist's demands knew no bounds. Dozens of retakes for the smallest imperfection became standard practice. A glance that missed its mark or a step that landed offbeat could reset entire days of work. Cast and crew described the atmosphere as military-like, with Kelly ruling through fear and intimidation. Even Kelly's patriotism became controversial when rumors surfaced about alleged connections to Irish Republican causes. Though his widow denied these accusations, the cloud of suspicion added another layer to his troubling legacy. Co-stars eventually refused to work with him, and choreographers swore never to return to his productions. The man who created some of cinema's most joyful moments had turned the art of dance into an instrument of torment, leaving behind a legacy as complicated as it was brilliant. Sean Connery, the gentleman's violent philosophy. The man who defined sophistication as James Bond shattered his own carefully crafted image with words that revealed a philosophy of violence that appalled the world. Sean Connery's declaration that men had the right to strike women transformed him from beloved icon to controversial figure overnight. In a 1965 Playboy interview, Connery calmly stated his belief that physical violence against women was justified in certain situations. When many dismissed it as a thoughtless comment, he doubled down during a live television appearance with Barbara Walters, reaffirming his stance without hesitation or apology. The studio fell silent. Millions of viewers erupted in outrage. The gentleman spy who had charmed audiences worldwide was revealed as a man whose personal beliefs contradicted everything his most famous character represented. Connery's volatile nature extended far beyond controversial interviews. During the filming of The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen in Prague, his confrontations with director Stephen Norrington became so intense that crew members feared physical violence might erupt on set. The film's failure led to Norrington's departure from directing entirely. His controlling behavior terrorized journalists and colleagues alike. Press conferences became minefields where a single wrong question could trigger explosive outbursts. The charm that had made him irresistible on screen became a weapon of intimidation in real life. Growing up in post-war Scotland, where domestic violence was often normalized, may have shaped Connery's worldview, but bringing those attitudes into Hollywood's spotlight exacted a heavy price. His legacy remains forever divided between the sophistication he projected and the violence he endorsed. Steve McQueen, the king of cool's petty vengeance. Working with Steve McQueen was like living next to a time bomb, never knowing when his explosive jealousy would detonate. The man dubbed the King of Cool harbored a vindictive nature that turned professional relationships into personal battlefields where no slight went unpunished. During the towering inferno, McQueen's obsession with equal treatment reached absurd heights. He sat for hours with a red pen, counting dialogue lines to ensure Paul Newman never spoke more words than he did. Any perceived imbalance triggered explosive rage that paralyzed entire productions until his demands were met. His petty revenge extended to elaborate pranks designed to humiliate rivals. James Garner discovered his balcony defiled after being cast in Grand Prix, a role McQueen had coveted. Industry insiders swore a drunken McQueen had orchestrated the disgusting prank personally, sending cronies to slash tires and scratch the cars of actors he despised. In marriage, McQueen's paranoia created a prison for his wives. Ally McGraw described their relationship as an endurance test where violence lurked behind every conversation. He hired men to follow her, suspicious of every phone call and meeting, driving her to seek refuge at friends' houses repeatedly. Directors bore the brunt of his professional cruelty. Peter Yates of Bullitt admitted McQueen caused him countless sleepless nights with unreasonable demands. Sam Peckinpah confessed he had never met an actor who used film sets as dumping grounds for personal rage more than McQueen. The rebel with an angel's face and devil's heart died at 50. Leaving behind a legacy of brilliant performances overshadowed by the cruelty he inflicted on everyone around him. Faye Dunaway, the battlefield empress. The woman who captivated audiences in Bonnie and Clyde and Chinatown transformed every workplace into a war zone where her volcanic temper could erupt without warning. Faye Dunaway's beauty and talent were matched only by her capacity for cruelty that left careers destroyed and lives shattered. During Mommy Dearest, Dunaway's method acting crossed into actual violence when she slapped co-star Diana Scarwid without warning. The blow wasn't scripted. It left a red mark that lingered for hours and trauma that lasted years. The crew froze in place, watching art dissolve into uncontrolled aggression. Her attacks weren't limited to fellow actors. A lighting technician required several stitches after Dunaway hurled an ashtray at his head because the illumination didn't meet her standards. Producers hung signs reading "Absolute Silence" outside her sets, desperate attempts to avoid triggering her legendary fury. The chaos extended beyond professional settings. Family members described dinner tables that became tense rituals where children and staff sat in fearful silence, waiting for storms to pass. Even her personal habits became disturbing legends, with reports of bizarre backstage behavior that shocked Broadway veterans. In 1994, her reputation finally caught up with her when she was dismissed from Sunset Boulevard, one of theater's most anticipated productions. Director Andrew Lloyd Webber's public statement that she was a danger to the entire company marked the end of her stage career and cemented her reputation as Hollywood's walking nightmare. Beauty and talent couldn't mask the authoritarian cruelty that defined Dunaway's professional relationships, transforming admiration into fear and respect into revulsion. Kirk Douglas, the hero's hidden shadows. The man who embodied strength and heroism in Spartacus carried secrets so dark they would forever taint his legendary status. Kirk Douglas's chiseled jaw and commanding presence concealed allegations that shook Hollywood to its foundations when they finally emerged decades later. In 2018, Lana Wood's memoir dropped a bombshell that reverberated through the industry. She alleged that Douglas had crossed unforgivable lines with her sister Natalie Wood when the future star was still young and vulnerable. Though Douglas had already died, the revelation linked his name permanently to one of Hollywood's most painful scandals. The shadows stretched back to 1949, when actress Jean Spangler mysteriously disappeared in Los Angeles. Inside her abandoned handbag, police found a half-written note. "Kirk, I'll meet you at..." The message trailed off, leaving investigators to wonder if it referred to the actor who had been filming nearby when Spangler vanished. Douglas's reputation for womanizing was legendary even by Hollywood standards. Radio columnists joked that if Academy Awards were given for seducing young actresses, Kirk would own the trophy. Beverly Hills parties featured him with strings of starlets, many barely out of their teens, who were discarded once the cameras stopped flashing. On film sets, his cruelty toward women became notorious. He forced female co-stars through dozens of retakes of intimate scenes, ignoring tearful pleas for mercy. Makeup artists spoke anonymously of witnessing him humiliate women in front of entire crews, using vicious words to assert dominance and destroy confidence. The heroic image that defined Douglas's screen presence stood in stark contrast to the predatory behavior alleged in his private life, creating a legacy forever complicated by unanswered questions. Lucille Ball, the comedy queen's cold heart. America's sweetheart, the woman whose laughter filled living rooms across the nation, harbored a coldness behind the cameras that chilled everyone who worked with her. Lucille Ball's transformation from beloved Lucy to the Ice Queen of CBS became one of television's most shocking contradictions. CBS colleagues whispered about Ball's explosive temper that could turn the smallest mistakes into public humiliations. When a lighting technician failed to adjust a spotlight correctly, she threw hot coffee across the desk, nearly scalding a nearby crew member. The incident became legendary for its casual cruelty and shocking disproportion to the minor error. A young assistant who accidentally dropped scripts found them hurled back into his face as Ball berated him in the dead silence of a frozen crew. Earl Wilson's report in the New York Post revealed the stark difference between the cheerful Lucy viewers adored and the harsh Lucille workers feared. Her domestic tyranny matched her professional cruelty. Desi Arnaz often fled their home to escape her sudden rages, leaving family dinners that ended with the sound of shattering dishes. Children learned to avoid looking at her without permission, turning family life into a performance where she was the only star and everyone else existed as silent spectators. Even in public spaces, Ball's arrogance became legendary. Flight attendants told stories of her refusing to speak directly to crew members, communicating only through gestures to assistants as if direct contact would diminish her status. The woman who made America laugh had created a private world where laughter died, leaving behind the echo of her footsteps and the silence of those too terrified to speak. The golden age of Hollywood was never truly golden. It was merely polished brass that gleamed under carefully positioned spotlights while darkness festered in the shadows. Robert Redford's revelations stripped away decades of carefully constructed mythology, exposing the human cost of an industry built on illusion and maintained through silence. These titans of the silver screen possessed the same capacity for cruelty as they did for captivating audiences. Their beauty, talent, and charisma became weapons wielded against the vulnerable, turning dreams into nightmares for those who dared to work alongside them or love them. The most chilling realization is not that these stars were flawed human beings. It's that their worst behaviors were enabled, covered up, and sometimes rewarded by an industry that valued profit over people. Studios paid for silence, lawyers buried evidence, and the machinery of Hollywood continued churning out fantasies while real lives were destroyed behind closed doors. Perhaps the greatest tragedy lies in recognizing that some of cinema's most beloved moments were created through suffering. Every time we watch Chaplin's Tramp or sing along to Crosby's Christmas carols, we're witnessing art born from ashes of human dignity. The price of entertainment was paid not by those who consumed it, but by those who created it under the tyranny of monsters wearing masks of genius. These stories remind us that heroism exists not in the characters on screen, but in the courage of those who finally found their voices to speak truth to power. Subscribe to ensure you never miss these important revelations that reshape our understanding of history.